Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you, and we're really glad you could join us for today's No Kid Hungry national conversation with our school breakfast grantees. That's you all. Across No Kid Hungry, we're learning so much about the work happening in districts every day. So, this national conversation is one way that we're bringing those experiences together so that our breakfast grantees can learn directly from one another. So think of today as an opportunity to step back from your day-to-day operations and reflect on what's working with breakfast and what supports your schools might need next. This national conversation is to help ensure that your experiences as our grantees continue shaping how No Kid Hungry supports school breakfast nationwide. Next slide. So before we begin, I just want to do some quick introductions. I'm Kate McDevitt, the Senior Manager for School Breakfast with No Kid Hungry's Center for Best Practices. So in my role, I work on school breakfast at the national level, and I focus on supporting districts by identifying the promising practices that are working across the country, creating opportunities like this for shared learning, and developing resources that help strengthen school breakfast programs. And I'm joined today by two wonderful colleagues, and I'm going to ask them to quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Addie Maldonado. I'm a grants manager on the grants team for No Kid Hungry campaign. I also support the breakfast grant making strategies across a portfolio of different state campaign teams. I'm based in New Jersey, so very cold and wet out here today, but happy to join you all today for this conversation.
Cold and wet in Northern Virginia as well. My name is Anessa Bontrager, and I am a senior project manager on the grants team for the No Kid Hungry campaign, and I handle all of our annual grantee analyses.
Super. Well, I won't tell you what the weather's like here in San Diego, but I'm sending you lots of sunshine. All right, let's go to the next slide. So before we jump in, we just want to get a sense of who's joining us today. So we're going to put up a quick poll. You should see that popping up on your screen. And we just want to get a better understanding of who's in the room today so we can tailor our discussion for you. All right, so there's that poll. We've got three questions. What best describes your role? Which setting best reflects the schools that you're supporting? And where are you joining us from today? Which time zone? So we'll give you just a second. And thank you all for responding quickly to a poll. I love it.
A lot of directors and supervisors. That's amazing.
Yeah. And we'll be able to see that in just a second. You got a sneak peek there. All right, so let's close out the poll. Chelsea, do you want to share the results for us? And Chelsea is running our tech side, so thank you to Chelsea. All right, so it looks like 54% are school nutrition directors. We do have some of our own No Kid Hungry staff joining us today. They're just listening in to observe. And we're so happy to see that we have some other school nutrition staff and district administrators joining. It's wonderful to have you. And it looks like we've got a lot of K-12 and state or multiple district roles. That's terrific. And then, oh, look at that. Eastern is 43%, Central 32, Mountain 4, and Pacific 21. All right. Well, great. Thanks so much for completing the poll. We're going to keep moving. So we want to start with something that we hear often. You all take time to submit grant reports, and many people ask us what happens after those reports are submitted. And I want to assure you that the answer is short and simple. We read those reports very carefully and we listen to you. So your reports don't just close out grants, they help shape how No Kid Hungry understands what schools are experiencing right now and where support is needed nationally. So today's conversation is directly informed by what you all, our breakfast grantees, have and continue to share with us. So thank you for that. Next slide. And I just want to walk briefly through what we're going to cover. So our goal is to present a little bit of information to you to get the ball rolling, but also to create a shared learning space across districts and states. So we're going to begin by sharing a few themes that have emerged from our 2024 school breakfast grantee reporting, which our grants team recently analyzed. And you'll hear examples of strategies that the 2024 grantees use to increase breakfast participation, along with some of the challenges that they identified that they were navigating. And just want to say again, this conversation is designed to give you all time to learn directly from one another. So there will be discussion built into this as we go, and we're going to have a breakout room. I always find that those breakout rooms are actually the most valuable part. So I hope you stick around for that. And we're going to connect at the end of the session today's learning to National School Breakfast Week, which is happening right now, and highlight a couple of the available resources from No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices. Next slide. And I just want to say that today's conversation is not, I want to stress, an evaluation space. The insights that the grant team will be sharing come from aggregated 2024 breakfast grantee reporting. And today is really about you all learning from the grantees from 2024, 2025, and 2026. That's who's in the room with us today. We know that every district operates differently. You have different communities, you have different staffing structures and sets of challenges and strengths. But we hope that together you can learn from one another. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anessa.
Amazing. Thanks, Kate. And thank you all for attending today. We're excited to share high-level findings uncovered through our 2024 breakfast grants analysis, share some grantee successes that may spark some ideas for you, and create a space for you all to learn from each other. So again, every year, the grants team analyzes our grants by program area, and they are based on the grantee reports that you all submit. So today, I'm excited to share what No Kid Hungry has learned from you all, our breakfast grantees. So to help set the stage, here is an overview of the grantees included in that 2024 analysis. 96% of all 2024 breakfast grantees submitted reporting, which is amazing. That equates to 75 grantees across 16 states, which impact over 500 schools. 95% of schools offered free breakfast to all students. 74 were classified as highly eligible, which means that 60% or more of the student body qualifies for free and reduced priced meals. 73% impacted communities of color, which we define as 50% or more of the student body identifying as a person of color. And 60% of the schools were located in suburban or urban geographical areas. It is important to note that while these grants were awarded in 2024, implementation may have occurred across school years 2024, 25, and/or 2026. And a big highlight for our team was that when asked how program implementation went for your grant-funded program, 73% of grantees reported that it went quote unquote very well, which is very exciting. And as you can see on this slide, we're going to break down school type and the program models that were used. So elementary schools made up the majority of our grantees at 47%. And the most common distribution methods across them involve serving meals in the classroom. Middle schools made up 16% of grantees and had the most variety in their breakfast model distribution methods. And then high schools accounted for 21%, and nearly all of them utilized a form of grab and go. And as you can see highlighted here, the common thread across all grantees, regardless of school type, was grab and go to the classroom. And a big congratulations to you all. Our 2024 breakfast grantees reported serving more than 109 million breakfast meals during their grant-funded program, which is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations again. And then on this slide, we are looking at how grant funds were used. So the two largest categories grantees spent funds on were food service equipment and appliances, and then grab and go carts. Those two categories accounted for nearly half of the grant funds when we combined them. It should be noted that there were slightly more categories than the ones listed on this slide, but for purposes of this analysis, we are only sharing the top 10 categories. And I'm just going to pause for a few seconds so you can examine this slide a little bit more in depth. And I will now be passing it along to Addie.
Thanks, Anessa. So first, we want to start with the celebration and talk about what worked well based on your grantee reports. When we reviewed your reports, one number stood out immediately, and that 65% of you all were able to increase participation. And not by small margins. Many of you saw gains between 20% and 100%, especially among middle and high school students, which we all know can be the hardest group to move. And that's meaningful progress. It shows that when barriers are reduced and offerings reflect what students actually want, they participate. Next slide. So here we want to highlight an example from a Florida grantee who was able to increase breakfast participation among students in secondary education. One Florida grantee focused intentionally on secondary students. They introduced new grab-and-go options such as cold brew coffee through a local partnership, coffee coolers with yogurt, smoothies, and parfaits. And participation surged. They began developing a reimbursable coffee cooler option to sustain interest while meeting program guidelines. Next slide. 47% of you reported improved effectiveness and efficiency through equipment and infrastructure upgrades. So we know that better equipment means safer food, more visibility, and greater reach. Infrastructure may not be flashy, but it streamlines processes to create efficiencies. It's a great job. Next slide. Here we want to highlight a Georgia grantee who saw an increased participation simply by relocating mobile carts to bus drop-off zones and entrances. But the real lesson wasn't just placement, it was collaboration. They had to coordinate with custodians, administrators, teachers, and families. They adjusted when traffic flow was disrupted and they communicated proactively. 36% of you reported increased positive student engagement. Students provided feedback, they influenced menu decisions, promoted breakfast within their schools, and that helps build the culture of school meals. When students feel ownership, participation becomes sustainable, not just situational. For this example, we highlight a Louisiana district who approached engagement from multiple angles. They updated their menu boards, offered hydration stations with colored ice cubes, gave cafeteria tours for their younger students, provided nutrition education and kitchen walkthroughs, and offered taste tests. It's a reminder that sometimes small, visible changes can shift perception and increase the willingness to participate. So let's flip the coin and talk about what you all reported was hard about your program implementation. 41% that reaching all students remains difficult. Next slide. 36% struggle with administrative or staff buy-in, especially concerns about classroom disruption. And another 36% cited staffing shortages, which directly impacted capacity and planning. Now, these challenges are real and they're systemic, but what's powerful is that many of you still increase participation despite these barriers. So congrats to you all. So we wanted to know what would help you all continue with your program despite these challenges and what opportunities exist. Your answers were very clear. You want support beyond funding, including advocacy and awareness, training and logistical guidance, community collaboration, ready-made marketing materials such as hands-on learning opportunities. And in other words, you want partnership, not just resources, but connection and shared problem solving. And that feedback is incredibly valuable to us as we think about next steps. So to highlight some lessons learned that you all reported, 37% of you highlighted program design and implementation. That included thoughtful planning, flexibility, and early organization. 28% of you emphasized student engagement and accessibility. Participation rises when breakfast is convenient, fast, appealing, and designed to meet students where they are. And 15% of you highlighted leadership support and administrative buy-in. Programs are strongest when principals, teachers, and administrators are invested. Buy-in reduces resistance, it opens doors, and it makes implementation smoother. So this slide I'm most excited about because 94% of you plan to maintain your breakfast program beyond the grant period. And that's huge because you're thinking long-term. Many of you shared sustainability strategies like offering culturally relevant menu items, continuing to use grant purchase equipment, and gathering ongoing stakeholder feedback. That tells us that you're not just implementing, you're refining. And in terms of support needs moving forward, the strongest theme was connection, peer-to-peer learning and networking, technical assistance, and ready-made marketing materials. So what we hear from that is you want to learn from each other, you want practical tools, and you want partnership. So thanks so much, and I'll be passing it over to Kate.
Thanks so much, Addie. It's so fun to hear what the 2024 Breakfast Grantees are sharing. And we want to go now to hear what you all think of this information that was just shared. So this next section of our time together is really about building connection. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so in the chat, after hearing the data that Anessa and Addie were sharing, what feels most true to your personal experience? What was resonating for you? And we'll give you a second to add that into the chat. I know it takes a minute to type things out, but what felt most true to your personal experience? And this is where it would be so nice if I had some music to play for you. Oh, thanks, Serena. So shared the importance of needing collaboration for all school admin and district leadership, need for proper marketing planning. Thank you. And Nicole, thank you. Recently, I'm having resistance from one of my principals regarding our grab and go breakfast after the bell cart, so help with continued buy-in would be helpful. Seeing the breakfast in participation increases, thanks, Alicia. Elena said administrative and faculty buy-in and being able to reach all students during passing periods. So I'm seeing a pattern in what's being shared. Proper marketing planning is so important. Thanks, Wanifer. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Mary said we also struggle with administrative buy-in. Okay, well, that's really helpful to share. Sharon says administrative buy-in can be a challenge, especially in larger school districts where principals vary in their desire to participate. Javier, good to see you, my friend, when expanding access to breakfast and the enjoyment students have. Thanks for that. Staffing of multiple breakfast carts. Nicole also said it feels like admin used to be excited when these programs first started, but more and more they are resistant. And Myra was just speaking with Myra's from our research team, and she was just speaking with some administrators recently. So I'd be curious if they were feeling similarly. Teresa says teamwork and listening to the students' likes and dislikes. Thank you all for adding that in. We're gonna, I know some of you are probably still typing. Keep typing. We're gonna move on to this next question, which is, of these challenges, which one feels the most pressing to you as a district right now? So across the grant reporting, three major challenges were surfaced most consistently in the 2024 grantees: reaching all students, administrator or staff buy-in, and limited staffing capacity. Looking at these, which is feeling most pressing to you right now? You can go ahead and drop that response in the chat. And just know this helps us shape our conversations so that we're staying grounded in the real challenges, not hypothetical ones. So we've got staffing, admin buy-in. I was guessing that might come up. Thanks, Elena, Alicia. Admin buy-in. Nicole says, definitely admin buy-in. I think a large part of that is teachers complaining then admin are less receptive. All right, super. So definitely some patterns there and something that we can continue to stay focused on to help support you. Go ahead and keep adding your answers in the chat. We're going to move on to the next slide. So we want to make sure that you all are getting the chance to hear from one another in many different ways. One of the things that we saw called out in a few of our different efforts was that you are asking for real life examples from other districts. So we reached out to one of our breakfast grantees, next slide, who is here with us today. So this is going to be an example from Orange County Public Schools in Florida. Their 2024 school breakfast grant focused on expanding access by investing in mobile heated cabinets, or Cambros, a lot of you call, and to bring hot breakfast items closer to their students. So they had cold items, they were adding hot items. What's important in the video that you're about to watch is, in addition to just the equipment being purchased, I really want you to pay attention to the strategy behind why the equipment was purchased. So Orange County Public Schools was asking, where are students already moving in the morning and how do we meet them there? And the shift that they made towards convenience and visibility and new hot menu offerings is something that we're seeing across many successful breakfast programs now. So as you're watching this video, I just want to ask you to think what sounds familiar to you, what feels important about what's being shared here, and what ideas does this spark that you might be able to try? So let's go ahead and take a look at that video. And Javier, thanks so much for working with us on this.
My name is Javier Vasquez. I am the Director of Operations for Orange County Public Schools. With our grant proposal, we were aiming to, one, increase participation, and also to increase the access to breakfast for our students. We wanted to purchase additional equipment that will give us the opportunity to branch out to locations, to other areas where students were kind of just hanging out. We had 3 schools that we had in mind that we wanted to work with. The equipment that we decided to move forward with, or that we felt strongly that would help us achieve those goals, was some thermal carts and some thermal bags. Depending on how the school was situated, the demographics of the school is how we decided to then utilize the equipment that was awarded to us, or what we purchased from the grant. A typical breakfast morning at our schools now looks like we have the staff that's preparing our normal day-to-day within the cafeteria. And then we also have a section for the staff who are preparing the carts. They're loading up the carts with the hot food, making sure that they have all the components needed to offer the students. Once we have the carts to filled to capacity, we go out to the different designated areas to serve the students the hot meals in the carts. Some of the challenges that we were facing was getting the students first to come into the dining area. And that was our biggest challenge. Is we felt strongly with the menu options that we had. One of the challenges that we faced was also buy-in from the administrators. They felt that depending on the location that we felt comfortable in serving, they didn't want us to be set up in that location because maybe they didn't have enough administrative support to monitor the students, or they may not have enough custodians to clean up in the area. So, we definitely worked with the administration to ensure that the locations we picked were ones that we both agreed on. And as far as the custodians not having enough to be able to clean up, we actually committed to cleaning up as soon as the bell rang. Our staff members will clean up in that area. That way there wasn't such a big mess. What we learned from the equipment that we selected was how long that the equipment actually held the proper temperature. this equipment that we were able to purchase now definitely maintained temperature. I think this equipment was really made for the purpose of transporting the food in that direction, versus in the past, we may have used a cart or something that we felt comfortable using, but it wasn't something that the staff felt comfortable with. So this equipment, they really felt comfortable maneuvering, transporting the food from location A to location B. So I think that was a big win for us. So once the equipment was in place, we definitely saw increase in participation. At one site in particular, our goal was to increase by 10%. We actually hit 15%, and this was like overnight. It wasn't even. The other thing that I could say is being able to sustain that participation without losing, especially if the school was having a field trip or something of that nature. Having this equipment there gives us that flexibility that breakfast is now offered and available to the students at those locations as well. So based on what we learned from the grant and the equipment that we utilized, was really that sometimes you may need to shift around locations. Kids, depending on the location, like to move around. They don't stay in one spot. And one of the things that we challenge our managers is to make sure that they do an assessment of their serving areas, especially for the ones that are on a remote location within the school, to see if that's the best location for the serving area. So we've been able to make some adjustments, and again, making sure that they communicate with the administration to ensure that the locations that they're wanting to move to, not only the administration is in agreement with it, but that we have everything, all the hookups, the electrical, the network, everything that is needed to be successful. So that's one of the things that I think really worked out for us, was to be able to just relocate as needed. If there was another district that, like us, that wanted to pursue the grant, I would definitely get them to do focus groups with the students. And it's a good way to get that buy-in, because if they feel part of it, that's the best word of mouth you could get, is actually from the students. And they also feel comfortable that they made a change, they made an impact when they see it come together. So I think definitely getting the student focus groups involved, getting the administration involved early on. It doesn't even hurt to get custodial services involved. That way they have an understanding of what we're putting together and how it's going to impact everyone. This was several years ago. One of the students that really touched my heart, that motivates me to do what I do today, was at the end of one of the breakfast sessions, and this was in a high school. There was one student who stood behind and waited for everybody to clear out of the dining area. And as soon as everybody cleared out of the dining area, he started going around and just started picking up items. At the time, we didn't have a share table, and he was just picking items from the table. And I had to question the student and ask him, was everything okay? And he pretty much just admitted to us that everything that he was grabbing was for his siblings, and they just didn't have enough food. And he just wanted to make sure that everyone was being taken care of at home. So we couldn't argue the point, of what he was doing, but it really gave us the opportunity to look at what other options we could put out there to help the students. One of the things I would definitely encourage other school district directors, not to shy away from the grant, because it may seem like lengthy work or trying to pull teeth from gathering data. This definitely helps you. This definitely will take you to the next level.
So we're going to move into a Padlet. If you haven't used a Padlet, it's very, very easy. I'm going to drop the link to our Padlet here, and then I'm going to share my screen. But if you all just want to click on that link, that would be terrific. Okay. So here's our next way we're connecting. We're moving slowly into more interactive spaces. So if you want to just grab a sticky note and share one success that has helped you increase breakfast participation, go ahead and drop that there. I'm glad to see people are finding a sticky note. If you haven't yet, go ahead and click that link in the chat. All right, I'm seeing mobile POS, increased service locations. Thank you. Expanding breakfast menus to include more grab and go. And if you have answered this question, there is a second slide, which you can see over on the left sidebar. You can go ahead and click to the second page. Including students' favorite breakfast foods, daily tracking system for BIC, accessibility, promotions for eating breakfast. And kudos to everybody for using Padlet. We're trying this for the first time, so I'm happy to see people seem to be able to access it. Second chance breakfast. I'm gonna move this one because I'm having trouble seeing what this one says. Taking the items to the bus line for late bus arrivals where students do not have to walk to the cafeteria. Great. And if you've answered this one, over on the left sidebar, you can click to slide 2. And that question is one current challenge that you're navigating with your breakfast program. Could be anything. Doesn't need to be related to your grant. And if there's not enough post-it notes, you can go over to the right sidebar and click on that little post-it note emoji and drag it into the white space. I'll add a few more just to make it easy. So here we're answering what's one current challenge. Needing more staffing, scratch cooking and more variety, student acceptability of less processed items. Getting students involved. We hear this one a lot recently is classroom accountability with daily counts and returning breakfast in the classroom equipment. Thank you. Menu choices, scratch-made items, ability to feed late students with no assistance from admin. Thank you. All right, so you can see there's quite a range actually in terms of the types of challenges that you all are experiencing. I appreciate everybody taking time to answer these questions. We're going to use this as sort of the prompts for the breakout rooms we're going to move into now. And I will tell you, in the last session, the breakout rooms were everybody's favorite part. And I hope that you'll stay for those conversations. I know sometimes you're doing multiple things at once, totally understand, but please join us there because I think that's where the really interesting conversations are going to take place. We're back. It goes so fast, doesn't it? I was like, oh my gosh, how but we had a really good conversation in our group. I'm going to ask each of the moderators to just share quickly what was one idea. And Chelsea, I don't know if you can share screen, but what was one idea that sparked some inspiration in your group? Anessa, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, happy to start us off. Our group chatted a lot around whether it's like focus groups or just getting student feedback. One grantee had shared that they did like a food show and challenged the vendors that like the food would only be placed on the menu if 80% or more of the students liked the product. Others talked about doing some breakfast sampling during lunch, and so that they were able to maybe not like a proper focus group, but get that feedback. And then also just talking through like some trial and errors and like seeing what the students are eating more of, to be able to put that on the menu and increase participation. So lots of strategies centered around student preference.
Love it. Addie, how about your room?
Yeah, so our room sort of shared the sentiment shared by Javier, or sorry, earlier in the presentation when we talked about how it's especially difficult for secondary students to get them to eat breakfast, just because sometimes during cafeteria time they use it as an opportunity to connect as like a social hour. There's stigma around breakfast. Um, so there's always struggles with getting high school students and middle school students to eat breakfast. So it's kind of being flexible and just having meals accessible to students, even if they aren't thinking about it, so that it's just in their purview when they're kind of going into the school. So they talked about having cards at different placement areas throughout the campuses, just so students can see that it's there. They'll be still be able to kind of connect with one another as they do, but still have access to eating. So that was something that came up for us.
Terrific. Yeah, that's definitely sounding like a pattern today. So thanks, Addie. Myra, how about in your room?
Yeah, so our room definitely echoed some of their earlier sentiments about how helpful the grants were to upgrade equipment and to really launch and scale the breakfast after the bell models, including breakfast in the classroom and second chance. Um, One thing that we honed in uh, was around some resistance from teachers to these programs and opportunities to really communicate with them to get their buy-in for the program. So what type of information would be helpful? Um, some of the other types of resistance that they're seeing include just criticisms to the offerings. And so just maybe some messaging around the nutritional quality of the foods that are offered. But I think it was really good to kind of talk through and see that we're aligned in thinking that superintendents, principals, and teachers are the next tier to just get buy-in.
Yeah, so we'll be continuing based on everything that you all are sharing to create more resources around the needs that you're identifying. In my room, we had a great conversation. We did focus on the what's working side of it, and we decided as a group to bring back one of the ideas that we all thought was really fun, which was at Sharon School District, they were doing VIP breakfast events where they had Blackstone grills where they were doing pancake breakfasts. They were inviting the parents. Principals would share a flyer with parents. The principal would also share that flyer with teachers, so everyone was aware of what was going on. And then they would sell tickets to the parents for adult meals. And it would give, through these pancake breakfasts, the parents a chance to see what breakfast could look like at their schools. And they really were finding that they were having a lot of success with this. So we all loved that idea, but there were lots of good ideas shared. So I always think it's fun to share what's working and also what's challenging because then you know you're not alone in how you're feeling. So we have 4 minutes left, and I'm just gonna wrap it up for us. If we go to the next slide. So I just want to say, as part of National School Breakfast Week, a huge thank you from the entire No Kid Hungry team for everything that you all do to support breakfast in your schools, for the ways that you're showing up for your students, for the ways that you're communicating and building morale with your staff. It matters so much. And we know National School Breakfast Week is this one moment each year when school breakfast is part of the national conversation at a broader level. And it's a week that creates visibility, not just externally with the public, but internally within your district, within your community, and with organizations like ours. And for us at No Kid Hungry, it's also an accountability moment for us to tell you, we hear you. We're listening to your insights. We are reading your reports, and they are shaping how we talk about school breakfast and where we focus next. So I just want to, if we go to the next slide, we've got 2 slides left. Just to remind you all that we do have a school breakfast resource library with hundreds of breakfast tools that you can use. What I want you to know is that the No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices School Breakfast Resource Library means that you do not have to create everything from scratch. If you go on that website, probably you're going to find what you're looking for. So I encourage you to join us there, and we'll send out that link after the webinar. And then next slide. You all, as our breakfast grantees, should be receiving our National Breakfast Bites monthly newsletter. It's going to be coming out today. If you don't get it, just send me a quick email and let me know, and I'll make sure that you're on the list. But we want to make sure that you all have ways to continue to stay connected, for us to continue sharing what's working. So if you read that newsletter and you say, this was really helpful, and here's something else I would like to see, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, I'm going to say thank you on behalf of our team. Anessa, Addie, Myra, thank you so much for all the school breakfast grantees. We really appreciate you. Oh, and Kelly has dropped the school breakfast landing page in the chat. Thank you, Kelly. We are so grateful to have spent time with you today, and we hope that this was valuable. Give us feedback. If you'd like to do this again, let us know. We can design it in the ways that make most sense for you. But we hope you have a great rest of National School Breakfast Week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.